Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. I'm rocking my beers, put suckers in beer, making the tears rain down like a monsoon. Listen to the bass go boom, explosion. Overpowering, over the competition. I'm towering, practice. Ah, man. What to say? What to say? First of all, thank you for the overwhelming support, comments, uh, phone calls, text messages, emails. I finally had a chance to look at a lot of them the other day, and I really got choked up. Like I really appreciated, everybody reaching out, checking on your boy. Um, what else? I'm gonna talk about what happened. Um, so I did have a massive, a massive heart attack 3 weeks ago, and a lot of people were hitting me up like, "Man, how could you have a heart attack? You're in such good shape, and you take care of yourself, and you're so positive and inspirational." And so I'm gonna talk about that on a surface level, and then a little bit more on a metaphysical, spiritual level. So basically, what happened was um, I was playing basketball at a gym a few weeks ago, and towards the end of the first game, felt a little tightness in my chest, like kind of not like over my heart, but like really in the middle. But not thinking nothing of it, kept playing. You know what I mean? How many times you feel something when you're exercising, you just kind of push right through it. So kept playing, didn't have to alter my play or nothing. Just kept on doing my thing. We won the first game, played the second game, and we won, but it didn't subside. The pain, I would say it was like a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10. So I'm sitting down after the second game, and I was telling a guy that was on my team, I said, "Man, my chest is a little tight." And he goes, "Man, it's really negative in here. It's like it's toxic energy up in here." And I looked at him, and I looked around, and I was like, "You right. I'm leaving." So I got my stuff and I left. Like after a couple of games, had been in the gym for like an hour or so, and but I did recognize what he was saying, and that's something that try to pay attention to. Like, don't put yourself in stressful environments, negative environments around certain types of energies and stuff like that. So got my stuff and left. Went outside, got some fresh air, just kind of tried to calm myself a little bit. Felt a little bit better. It didn't go away, but I felt a little bit better. And I was thinking it was probably like indigestion or something like that, because it was like in the center. And I had a turkey burger like really late the night before, so I was like, probably just need to go get some food. So I shot over to Whole Foods to get a juice and some trail mix. And while I was sitting in the car drinking it and eating the trail mix, excuse me, it felt a little bit better, but then it got a little bit worse. So probably like a 2 now. So I'm like on my phone, which we do, Googling like chest pain and indigestion, and um, something said something about taking an aspirin. So I was like, oh yeah, let me go get an aspirin real quick. So I was already in the car. I shot over to Pavilions, and by the time I got to Pavilions, which was like a 5 minute drive, it probably went from like a 2 to like a 4 or 5. So now mentally trying to figure out what it is, I know that you can spiral out of control. So I'm really conscious of like trying to calm myself down, man, take it easy. Just, don't allow my imagination to just run rampant. So I go into Pavilions, and grabbed what I thought was aspirin, but it was really ibuprofen, which is two totally different things. And it probably had went from like a 5 to like a 6. So I'm like popping the ibuprofen, like trying to gauge like what's going on in my chest. So I go back to the car. I'm sitting outside just trying to get some air, and a buddy of mine works at Kaiser Hospital. So I was trying to call him because I'm thinking, well, he'll know what to do. Um, but for whatever reason, in that moment, I couldn't remember, if I had it, where I had his name under. You know what I mean? Was it, you know, Bill, William, Mike, Michael? You know what I mean? Like I couldn't figure it out. And while I'm trying to figure this out, the pain goes to like an 8. So I'm kind of like, trying to open my lungs up, open my chest up, and I'm walking around the parking lot, and I'm kind of bending over, like trying to get air. And so from there, it probably went to like a 9. And at that point, it just felt like pressure. Like it didn't, not once did it cross my mind that it was a heart attack. It just felt like pressure on my chest. And then my left arm started tingling. So then the voice in my head was like, take your ass to the hospital. So I was like, all right. Jumped in the car. I was in Sherman Oaks at the time. The closest hospital was Sherman Oaks Medical, which is on Van Nuys. So I went, drove myself, down the back streets and kind of driving a little erratic at this point, trying to get there. And so I get to, it's probably like a 5 minute or so drive to the hospital. So I get there, I leave the car running out front, grab my wallet, run inside, and basically tell, the nurse or the counter person that, I'm having severe chest pains and I need help. And she goes, well, I need you to fill out this form. It's like classic movie, TV stuff. And I was like, no, here's my ID, and I need some help. And I didn't lose consciousness, but I collapsed on the floor in the emergency room lobby. So somebody comes out, they help me up, get me in the wheelchair, take me in the room, get me up on the table, hook me up to the EKG, and the dude comes back and he goes, you're having a massive heart attack. And literally, when he said that, I got totally calm because it was almost like the clarity of what was actually happening made everything okay. Like I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. Like what the hell? Like, am I getting ready to die? Like none of those thoughts crossed my mind. Now the one thought that did was, I would say maybe like disappointment a little bit because my father died of a heart attack at 49 years old, and his mother died of a heart attack. So, yes, there is a history of heart disease in my family um, that I've been aware of, and I'll speak a little bit to that later on after I finish, telling the story. So, he says that, and he goes, well, we don't have the equipment to perform the procedure. We got to ambulance you over to Providence, St. Joseph in Burbank. So at that point, I'm thinking, I probably should call somebody. So I call my mother, and probably in the most calmest voice I can, but how do you tell somebody that you have a heart attack without them freaking out? So I said, Mother. She said, yes, son. I said, don't panic, but I'm having a massive heart attack, and this is where I am. This is where I'm going. And, she wigged out a little bit, but, to her credit, she kept it together and met me over at the Providence, and they had to perform a procedure where basically they put a catheter through my groin, go up, through the arteries in your body, find the clot, clean it out, put a stent in to hold the artery open, and take the catheter out. So that was pretty much the procedure. Um, and then I just been on the mend ever since. Was in the hospital for 4 days, I think, and went home, and they got me on some medication, and I've never taken medication ever in my life, so that's been an adjustment period, just kind of finding your wherewithal with the feelings of like lethargy and fatigue and all kind of stuff that comes with it. Um, so yeah, so that's where we are, and then to go a little further with it. So yes, there is a history of heart disease in my family. I've known that I've had high cholesterol since I was a kid. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like some, oh, what? I have what? Um, but I just find it really easy to blame family history for what happened. And I don't. I take full responsibility for what happened on that day, when it did, blah, blah, blah. And I do so because when my father died when I was 19, um, I used to carry a thought, and now we're speaking more, you know, as a man thinketh, you know what I mean? So I used to carry a thought that I was going to die young for some years because I bought into family history and this is just what it is, and woe is me, and I'm a victim. And I would think after about 4 or 5 years, um, I started to move away from that idea. I would stop making comments about it. I started behaving and living and acting in a manner that I was going to be here for a long time. Um, but in the time that I have spent reflecting on what happened, I realized that although I did move away from the idea of dying young from a heart attack, I never really moved away from the idea of having to deal with it at some point in my life, if that makes any sense. So, I recognize that the exercising, the eating healthy, and not like some perfect diet, but like, moderation, like, I stopped drinking hard liquor maybe like 4 years ago. I don't smoke. I don't eat red meat. A lot of those things were to try to combat the family history, right? So I know universally that whatever you're fighting against is actually going to show up at some point. So if I was doing those things, exercising, eating right, and healthy living, healthy lifestyle, uh, just as a way to be, that's one thing. But I know a good chunk of what I've been doing has been trying to combat the idea that I'm gonna have to deal with this thing at some point. And that's what happened. It showed up. You know what I mean? So that at some point we don't know when it's gonna happen. That's the only thing, like I said, I spent like, why now? You know what I mean? So that's really the only portion of it that I've spent any time on, was the timing of it. But then at the same time, the doctor said if I wasn't in the shape that I was in, I would have died. And I accept that. I personally believe that it didn't take me out because that thought never crossed my mind. Like at no point while I was going through what I was going through did I think I could die. It was like, a heart attack? That's what this feels like? Like, it was more like that, you know what I mean? So, um, who knows? 2 years ago, 2 years from now, I just know it happened when it did. And I'm very grateful for uh, being in the shape that I was in to survive it. The doctor was like, I don't know how you spent the last 2 hours driving around and running errands and trying to figure out what was going on, um, and then drove yourself to the hospital. Um, I mean, it's been in the news recently, Sean Rooks that played in the NBA, he died of a heart attack. He didn't get a chance to get to the hospital. Kimbo Slice, you know what I mean? So I was already a grateful dude before, and I just think these things that happen to us, to me, to you, to everybody, are designed to constantly remind us that nothing is promised, and we really should, there's deeper levels of gratitude. And so I just appreciate the experience. It was probably, not probably, it is or was, because I experienced it and is gone, my greatest fear. Dealing with family history and heart stuff. And so my greatest fear showed up, and it didn't take me out. And I don't think fears are designed to take you out. I think they're designed to present themselves, to have you recognize the thoughts that you're carrying, because whatever you're thinking, both positive and negative, are going to show up. And so my fear showed up. I was able to overcome it, and I'm on the other side of it. And now I'm like, well, we can change that mindset because we've experienced it, and we don't have to experience that again, unless I want to. You know what I mean? I really don't. It wasn't fun. Um, Technically speaking, what happened was uh, there was some degree of plaque in my artery, and the doctor said that there are all kind of things that could rupture the plaque. Um, Stress, anxiety, but like I said, I don't consider myself a stressful person. I'm very conscious of all that stuff. But the environment that I was in at that gym, a lot of testosterone, a lot of ego, a lot of arguing over the score and the calls, and it was just a lot going on. And the plaque in my artery ruptured. And so your body, trying to defend itself, sends the blood clots to try to contain the rupture. But the combination of the plaque and the blood clots is what caused the blockage. Um, so that's what happened, technically speaking. But like I said, I accept full responsibility because I was there, I was in that environment, and, it's kind of like if you're hanging out in the hood and you catch a stray bullet, but you're like, well, I'm not a gangbanger. And I'm like, well, you was in the hood. Like, that can happen. So the fact that I put myself, and it didn't start out that way. Like, I didn't know until it became that environment. Like, it didn't start off negative, but as the game wore on and attitudes and egos and all that, it became a negative, toxic environment. And by the time, it was brought to my attention or I acknowledged it, it had already started. So the only thing I could have done differently, if I would have even known what was happening, was go to the hospital immediately. They probably could have, it probably wouldn't have got to where it did, but, that's what we do. We don't know, so it's like, I'm not going to just go, because how many other times have I felt tightness in my chest and it went away? So yeah, man, other than that, I'm on the mend. Um, there was some fluid in my lungs from the heart attack. Uh, so it's getting better because my heart has to get stronger to pump the fluid out. So that's been a process. Um, Sleeping has been an adventure, but it's gotten better. I'm able to sleep in like 3 hour increments, where before it was like 30, 45 minutes at a time. Um, but after a couple of weeks, like, I started to feel more alert. Um, and some of it is you just got to push through mentally, because the medication will have you feeling like you don't want to do nothing. And sometimes you are tired, and sometimes you just got to push through. So um, I've gotten a better grip on balancing the two. Like, I think I need to sit down because I'm tired. Or, nah, man, you just being lazy. Get your ass up and go get something to eat. Go to the store. Go to the gym. So I have been back in the gym, but just, walking on the treadmill, nothing strenuous. Some very lightweight exercises. Um, Probably lost like 20 pounds, primarily because I haven't had any wine. I was, drinking wine, so I've no alcohol of any kind for the last 3 weeks. No sugar, um, no salt. Um, and then they had me on some water pills to help with the fluid. So it was just draining all the water out of my body. So I'm sure that's contributed to the weight loss as well. But other than that, man, my spirits are good. I'm not down about it. I definitely don't feel like no victim. Um, and like I said, I really appreciate uh, all the comments. Everybody that's been checking in, checking on me, coming to visit me, bringing me stuff. Um, I know it's a scary thing, so everybody's like, how are you? I'm good. 2 minutes later, how are you now? I'm still good. You know what I mean? Like, it just takes time for your body, or at least my body, to heal itself internally. But it's gotten better, so I can feel the difference. Um, my energy level has picked up. Um, yeah, man. So that's it. I'm trying to think if I've left anything out. Um, I sometimes, like I said, people like, you're in such good shape, and how could that happen? I'm like, look, the only thing we can do is the best that we can do. And that's what I subscribe to. I subscribe to everybody's doing the very best that they can. And as long as I'm doing the best that I can accept the consequence of whatever happens. My grandmother, lived to 100 smoking and drinking every day. Go figure. You know what I mean? So, sometimes we not really gonna know. And that's when I just surrender. I give it up to God, and I just accept my part in it. And I know my thinking had a lot to do with it. And so everybody, you shouldn't be worried like, well, if it could happen to me. I mean, anything can happen to anybody at any given time. Like, tomorrow's not promised. You know, um, if anything, it should just be an example. And we've been seeing a lot of it with the stuff in Orlando. Um, the thing that they caught the dude out in Santa Monica on his way to do something. It's like, if those aren't enough examples, that we need to just be so much more grateful than we are. That we need to love on each other more than we do. Show more compassion. Then I don't know, what else the universe or God can show us to try to convince us on the daily. Um, and we can do it right where we are. So each of us as individuals can do that. We can show more compassion, show more understanding, show more love right where we are, within your family, at your job, in your community, in your social circle. And the collective consciousness can change that way. It's not going to come from the lawmakers. It's not going to come from the politicians. Unfortunately, it's just not. It's got to come from the people. We make up this country. So, yeah, man. But your boy's in good spirit. I don't know what else to say. Thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. And the inspiration, motivation don't stop. As I get stronger, I'll be able to, get my mind consistently back into it. And we're going to keep this thing moving, man. One love. Brooklyn. Peace.